Today, I'm going to talk about a topic that comes up often in discussions around systemic change and individual personal responsibility. I got an email over the weekend, and this is why I'm even talking about this today. The email said, "Hey, David, a Cuban American streamer Destiny, also known to some in our audience as Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bonnell II, was recently interviewed. And Destiny said, it's not hypocritical to, on the one hand, say, hey, we need these systemic changes, but on the other hand, to encourage people to take responsibility and give advice that tells people individually how to best solve their situation, even if you're not making the systemic change." Now, I haven't been able to find the clip. Doesn't even really matter, because this is a very important topic and I want to talk about it today because people have said to me, I get emails, when we do segments on the finance channel, or people call in during live calls with personal finance questions or whatever the case may be. People will write to me, they'll say, David, how can you, in good conscience and in good faith, advise people about how to reduce their own tax liability, for example, or work to reduce your own, but to advocate for higher taxes for some people? Or another example recently that came up, I spoke about funding a 529 college savings account or educational savings account for my baby daughter. And people say, how can you participate in creating a 529 account for your baby daughter while saying a huge problem is that college education is too expensive, there are too many student loans, the stock market is not accessible to everyone, maybe college education should be less important? I'm going to address those specific questions, but let's first set this up properly. Many people on the right, and even some on the left, will argue there's a hypocrisy to demanding systemic change while encouraging people to take responsibility for their own lives and to do what is best for them in the moment. Some will say, and they say it to me, if you believe in the systemic change, then you should wait for the government to fix the problem and not bother trying to improve your situation. Others might argue, when you do what is best for you, it actually will delay the systemic solution that you might be calling for. This is a very flawed and sometimes absurd argument. First of all, demanding a systemic change and encouraging individual action are not mutually exclusive. In fact, I would argue they go hand in hand. Imagine we want to see a more equal society. We would like to see the government policy to reduce inequality in society. Well, we need to demand policies that address systemic inequality, like a living wage and affordable housing and universal health care. And we should vote for candidates who will do those things or who say they will do those things. But at the same time, why wouldn't I encourage people to educate themselves about how things are today, how things work today, to improve their skills, to advocate for rights in the marketplace, to take advantage of the tools that are available to them, which they might not even know about, to improve their lives today as we work to elect officials who will make the bigger systemic change. Secondly, for me as a progressive, demanding systemic change is not about giving up personal responsibility. It's about acknowledging, here's all the things I can do, but there is a superstructure, a systemic reality that is above and beyond what I can do. It doesn't mean I don't do the things I can do. It means I understand there's a second layer to it. Some on the right like to say, listen, you want healthcare for all so that you, David, as a self-employed person, don't have to buy your own healthcare. That's what I do right now. Sure, maybe, but I'm going to get myself healthcare because I need healthcare. It's not really about whether I am getting healthcare on the marketplace, the healthcare.gov, while saying everybody should get, these are two different things. We're all products of our environment, and our choices are limited by the opportunities and obstacles that exist systemically. But within that, we should still do what we can do to improve our situation. And if we want to empower people to succeed, we should create a society that provides equal opportunity when it comes to education and healthcare and other economic opportunities. Last thing, encouraging individual action also doesn't mean we ignore the systemic inequality. I would argue it's the opposite. When I say to people, here are the actions you can take, I'm empowering them to do that and better set themselves up to challenge the status quo and to demand that change. When we encourage workers to organize and demand better wages and working conditions, We're trying to improve their lives, but we're also trying to make a systemic change that will benefit more than just them. Now, let's talk about some of the specifics as they apply to me or people that sometimes call in or whatever the case may be. Let's talk about taxes. I pay every dollar in taxes that I'm legally required to pay. At a systemic level, I think we need higher top tax rates. We should look at taxing capital gains as income. We should eliminate the carried interest loophole. We should shift the tax burden away from the poor, all of these different things. At the individual level, me, David Pakman, just sending more money to the IRS and not taking deductions that are available to me, that's not policy. That's not the way we do it. My policy opinion is the one I just told you, and I vote for elected officials that would put that in place for everyone. At the individual level, I'm not going to pay more tax than I'm legally required to pay. I'm not going to send money to the IRS for no reason. There is no double standard. The problem isn't individual taxpayers. It's the systemic loopholes and tax breaks that let the wealthy and corporations evade taxes. The 529 account for my daughter, I'll do this one. If college costs keep going up, as they have been, by the time my daughter's 18, the colleges I went to would cost over $200,000 a year. That's insane. Can't possibly happen. I spoke to Adam Schiff about this. The student loan industrial complex is a mess. Maybe jobs should not require a college degree, and that'll put downward pressure on the cost of college. Maybe not. But what do I gain by denying my daughter a 529 account that I can start funding today? I will advocate for change, and I will also do what I think gives me the best insurance policy. If she doesn't go to college, or she doesn't need the money from the 529 because we fixed the cost of college or whatever in 18 years, I can change the beneficiary or take the money out and pay the 10% penalty, whatever. Now, to an advice example. If someone came to me and said, I'm struggling, I need to make some more money, or I want to make more money, am I going to rant to them about income inequality, tax loopholes for the rich, and that we should have universal basic income? Those are systemic ideas. I would tell them, have you looked at a side business? Is there a certificate you can get to earn more money at your current job? Is your resume updated? Is there a skill you can monetize? There is not a hypocrisy or double standard between advocating for systemic change and in the meantime, advising people to do what is best for their families. We have a caller who called in and said, I have my partner is trans or my daughter is trans. I live in a deep red state. It's getting really ugly. They're passing all this legislation. Systemically, we should work in every state to protect trans people. At the individual level, I said to them, you've got to decide for yourself, do you need to move to a different state if you're able to, in order to do what you think is best for your family right now? Sure, in 20 years, we might effectively protect trans people in whatever state it was they were calling from. But in the immediate, if your family's in danger, I'm going to say, no, you've got to stay there. And of course not. Okay. Not a double standard. Let's understand the difference between the systemic and structural and the individual.